slow reaction, slow turnover, short stride length. You're getting burned. We're gonna give you the best movements that you can use inside of the gym to go from noob to pro, and we're gonna start right now. When we developed the 2022 Big Ten Rookie of the Year, Nick Singleton, we had to start with him in 6th grade. So we had to take this global perspective, and we had to look at him as he's 6th grade. He's a noob. So how can we work him through each specific level and take him from being a noob all the way up to the point of where he is currently as the Big Ten Rookie of the Year? And that's where we're gonna start in this video. We're gonna start with those simple movements early on, and we're gonna progress you to those pro level exercises so that we can shave some seconds off of your time and help you become a pro. So with a noob, we have someone who's typically gonna have a lower training age. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're young athletes, that they're 12, 13 years old. It really just means that they haven't done a lot of strength-based training. They haven't done a lot of plyometric-based training. They probably haven't done a lot of speed work, okay? So they're a newbie. They likely lack coordination, they lack body control, and most importantly, in most cases, they lack that mindset. And the entire goal here is that we can progress someone over 5 years of training and get them to improve their overall coordination and improve their training mindset. So most athletes lie within this spectrum of that beginning stage to that 5-year time frame. That's typically where most athletes lie. And this takes us immediately into the theory of speed and getting faster. So we've got to look at things through the simplest terms. And speed is really just the rate in which a body moves over a certain distance identified by time. And physiologically, this is going to occur through impulse. So how much force can we apply to the ground in a very short period of time while we're moving, while we're sprinting, while we're running at high speeds? And things like elasticity, mobility, sprint technique, all of these things are going to have an impact on impulse, which in turn is going to help us lower that time and increase our speed. So let's start with noob exercise 1. So when we're dealing with somebody who's a new athlete, they lack muscular innervation, they lack coordination, okay? They lack intramuscular coordination and intermuscular coordination, and they lack the ability to actually control their body. So then I start to think about what exercise is the best to get that newbie to improve their speed so that they improve their coordination, they get a little bit more hypertrophic, they increase their mobility. And that lens brings us to the back squat. Okay, so I'm gonna take this off of our sweet ZKC bumpers, and this is what we wanna focus on when we're dealing with a newbie athlete. Remember, Nick Singleton, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, newbie. We want to improve their overall mobility. We want to improve their overall leg strength and their ability to have a little bit of grit and learn how to apply force quickly. So we can do slower eccentric back squats, full range of motion, and then they can come up really, really quickly, okay? So if we can do this stuff over time, consistently, get them from 6th grade to 8th grade to squat a little bit more, increase their elasticity, increase their ability to coordinate, that's going to improve their overall impulse expression, okay? But then the big question is, what about rest periods? So rest periods could be 2 to 2.5 minutes. That's ideal for when we're doing absolute strength movements, okay? Fortunately, we have rest periods built directly inside of our app, Peak Strength. Now, what we also want to do is we want to do specific rep schemes. 5 sets of 5, 6 sets of 3. Newbie athletes, maybe we're doing 3 sets of 5 and 2 sets of 10. This is going to increase their muscular hypertrophy and also lead to better innervation, which in turn, when they go out and they're doing their speed-based work, that's going to help them react a little bit quicker. So noob exercise 2, this is when the athlete has a little bit more experience, they have a little bit more strength. Where can we take them next to improve their speed? And that takes us into that next exercise. That's gonna be the Nordic hamstring pull. Now, I love to use this exercise, especially with younger athletes and inexperienced individuals, but if they're a little bit older, let's say 25 or 30, we'll go a little bit slower. If we have somebody, let's say, again, bring up Nick Singleton, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. If we can get them to execute a Nordic hamstring pull very effectively at a young age, it helps them to develop stronger hamstrings. Hamstrings typically tend to be the most injured area when we're talking about speed. And this is likely going to be related, one, to strength, but most importantly to technique when people are actually running. So we like to start with really, really slow eccentrics. So let's say we go down 6, 7, 8 seconds, and then we touch here as I hiccup there a little bit, and we can push back up. Now we want to make sure that we focus on that hip extension. Let's do that again, because we really, really want to lead to developing those ham hocks. Those big time ham hocks are going to help with hip extension in other aspects, jumping and along the lines of speed. So we can go down a little bit slower here, and then ideally we get to the point where we can touch our chest and come back up. And then over time we can use things like razor curls. We can use things with a really heavy, slow eccentric, release the weight and come up very quickly. And we can start to get really, really unique methods to develop those extremely strong hamstrings. So to start off with the newbies, I recommend 3 sets of 6 to 9 reps, somewhere in that range, okay? You can even use bands. We have bands attached here, and early beginners will get cramps at the top of their calves. So just be aware that that does happen when people go through this process, okay? So take it slowly, and ideally within 6 months of training, 8 months of training, they can execute a perfect Nordic hamstring pull. And what better way to recover than having a protein-packed bowl of flavorful cereal from today's video sponsor, Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is cereal reinvented, and each bowl will have 0 grams of sugar. Some flavors have 12 grams of protein, other flavors have 14 grams of protein with 4 to 5 net carbs. Now I can enjoy my awesome bowl of cinnamon roll before we get into that next exercise. This is really good. 2 years later, we're going to enter into, so we're entering into the intermediate zone. Now this is getting us closer to the pro zone. What can we do now as we continue to develop these freaks? So what exercise can give us a great response? Remember, we've got to think through the lens of development. We take athletes here from 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all the way up to that elite world-class level. Now I can hear, I can feel, I can sense the functional zealots thinking and crying, and they're gonna cringe when they find out what this next exercise is. And that movement is going to be a 1-box clean, okay? And the big factor here that we have to think about is that we have to take a kid who's 12 or 13 years old. We can't do partial eccentric, isometric, concentric, slow moving banded goblet squats to develop them to that next level. We actually have to do something practical to get them to be world class. And that's the big factor here. And one of the cool parts behind Peak Strength, our brand new app, is that you can actually select, if you don't have these boxes, you can actually do something like a hang clean or a power clean from the floor. But what this movement does is it teaches the athlete how to move weight. It teaches the athlete how to move heavy weight fast. They also learn how to absorb that energy and control that movement, and to control that movement pattern through various ranges so that their body and their nervous system communicates a little bit more clearly. They can hit deeper ranges of motion, which in turn leads to more mobility in their hip, more mobility in their lower back, more ankle mobility, which leads to better stability, which leads to better elasticity when they're running. And that's exactly why we love to use that 1-box clean. We'll do 6 doubles, 5 triples, 7 singles, anything like that to build up over time and to achieve a great stimulus that leads to better speed. And with only 140 calories, these cereals are all keto friendly. They're gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and they're low carb. You can try one of their variety packs, which has maple waffle, cinnamon roll, cookies and cream, honey nut, fruity, even peanut butter. I've already eaten my entire bowl of cinnamon rolls, so we already know which flavor is my favorite one. So click the link down below to grab the variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code GarageStrength for $5 off your brand new variety pack. Or you can even just go to magicspoon.com/GarageStrength and get those $5 off. Now, let's get back to our next exercise and get you fast as Intermediate number 2. This is going to be the key exercise that bridges the athlete from being that intermediate athlete to the pro level. Remember, we're walking you through noobs, then the intermediate, and the next area is the pro. But first, this is intermediate number 2. We want a movement that's gonna target the posterior chain, the glutes, the hamstrings, the areas responsible for the drive phase, okay? We wanna be a little bit unstable, force that trunk control. That's gonna contribute to better impulse expression and better control when we're doing agility-based movements, okay? So you might have guessed what that exercise is going to be. And of course, we're gonna use the garage strength single leg pad and single leg roller right here. We are going to do the single leg squat, the absolute best movement for speed, okay? So we wanna get here, go nice and controlled. This is an exercise that we use to develop Haley Reichert, who just placed third at the World Championships in weightlifting. This is also an exercise that we use to get Cooper Lutz to be Special Teams Player of the Year for Vanderbilt's football team in the SEC. And also a movement that we use to get Jan Johnson to the NFL. So this exercise is great if you're doing 4 sets of 5 on each leg, and you can even do unbroken movements to focus on that controlled speed, because that is what's gonna help you get fast as And if you want more exercises to help you get fast as make sure that you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, because we're sprinting our way to 1 million subs. Okay, so pro level 1, okay? Now we're dealing with elite level athletes. We've walked them through that newbie start, we've gotten them through the intermediate level, okay? Now we're into the professional level. This is where athletes have made defense mechanisms throughout their training career, and so it becomes a little bit harder to get that specific adaptation to drop their time and increase their speed, okay? So think about, this is when athletes have a very smart body. So then we've got to get a little bit more creative, and that's where I'm gonna go here with a isometric action, okay? An isometric action, and we wanna feel our feet sort of holding this position. We wanna feel this unstable position here. We're gonna hold this for about 20 seconds. Okay, so I wanna focus on my balance. I wanna focus on my glute action, okay? Right now I can feel my hamstring and my glute firing, and I'm being stable on that PVC pipe, okay? So we're gonna hold this for about 20 seconds. Now, I might rest for 20 seconds. My body's awake. I'm trying to really feel that glute, hamstring, my feet, everything, okay? Now we're gonna get into acceleration. We took that 20 seconds holding that isometric action, 20 seconds rest, and now we get into a unilateral bound. So we're here, boom, 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 okay? Then we're gonna repeat that. We're gonna go on the other side as well. 20 seconds rest, go through this jump series. We're gonna do that 5 to 6 times on each side. This is gonna help with impulse expression. It's gonna help us feel that mind muscle action now when we're holding that PVC pipe. Remember, pro level athletes are smarter. Their body's smarter. We've got to trick their body into getting a little bit quicker. If we can lower their time by 100th of a second, 1,000th of a second, we can make them an extra couple $1 million potentially, or an extra world medal, whatever that might be. So we have to get creative, and we have to provide that strong stimuli so that they can adapt and be a little bit quicker. Pro level 2. Remember, we're taking the 6th grader and we're developing them into the dreams that we have, the level that we could only imagine. But we've done this because we've led them through proper progression and proper development of an athlete. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit more creative. There's 2 things that I love when I'm dealing with professional level athletes. I love to use isometric actions, and I love to use pulses. So here's a perfect example of a pulse. I'm gonna get into a split position here, and I'm gonna go boom, 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 boom. Nice, easy, 4 each side. I know that was more than 4, but I wasn't counting. I'm gonna go on this side here, same thing. Boom, 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 boom. More than 4 again. We're using the garage strength power elastic. This is the HAF band. If you hook this to something immovable, it's gonna help you pull that back down, and your nervous system is going to light up. When we're dealing with elite level athletes, we have to get creative. So we do those pulses, okay? We can rest about 20 to 30 seconds. You can do this on a stadium, you can do this in the turf area, you can do this on your backyard, wherever you wanna be. Fortunately, we have steps. We hit those pulses, 4 each leg. Rest 20, 30, 40 seconds, okay? Let that nervous system recover, come over, and you can do these single leg stair jumps, focusing on acceleration. It's gonna be very similar to if you have someone running a 40. Coming out of the blocks, you have to drive. Let's see. I failed twice already. Oh yeah, that was way better. 3 good jumps after those pulses. Okay, so you go 4 pulses, 3 jumps on each side. It's gonna help improve your drive phase. It's gonna help improve your reactive ability and your overall coordination. So speed kills in the weight room, and the more we can do things with weights that will lead and mimic our actual sport. That's gonna help us with our overall sport-specific speed. So there's 3 things that you can do leaving this video. That first key factor is you can take all of these exercises, go to the gym and try them today. And you can see how they feel. You can see if they help you with your overall speed. Remember, impulse is a key mechanism behind speed performance. That second thing that you can do is, of course, head over to peakstrength.app and pick up our app today, where we have over 35 different sports programs, and you can work on those specific programs to help you develop. And the first 7 days are free. Head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, or the Apple Store. And because remember, freaks, if you guys want to become champions, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace. What's up, guys? Our podcast and our channel are sponsored by our own strength training app, Peak Strength. The entire focus of Peak Strength is to provide you guys with the absolute best sports performance app that you could ever imagine. We build out the programs on the back end. We take in all of these different decisions that we learned here on site at Garage Strength so that we can then apply it to you so you can improve your training. So if you guys want to improve your overall sports performance, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength. You'll get a free week of training, and then you can start getting on those gains, get those reps done so that you can become a champion. Now, let's get back to the video. Peace. Open skilled sports are chaos. Your legs land in crazy positions. You're all over the place. And when you land in those precarious positions, you've got to know how to come out of them in a rapid manner. And we're gonna give you the best unknown exercises that are gonna unlock your speed potential. And we're gonna start right now. So how can we emulate those chaotic positions that we're gonna get into in those open skilled sports inside of our training? And that's where we're gonna go right into understanding chaos coordination. And we can start with something as simple as a depth drop and land on a unilateral position, land in a unilateral position, and just start to understand when we land on one leg, how do we absorb this energy? How do we brace ourselves? How do we control ourselves? And then you can get even more creative where you land on one leg, pause, and then sprint out of that position. You could even land backwards. Think about basketball players, volleyball players, a lot of football players reaching backwards as they're about to grab something here and then jumping forward. So these are all really simple tasks that you can do, just cross myself up a bit much there, as means to improve your chaotic coordination. You're here and then you have to sprint out of that. So you can work through different depth drop positions. You can even do bigger depth drops where you jump here and land and jump forward. All of these different drills can help improve that grounding in chaotic situations. And if you add in a jump or you add in some speed, that's gonna lead to better performance out on the field, specific to open skilled sports. We're gonna be giving away a free brand new logo shirt, and all you guys have to do to enter this giveaway is 1, comment down below. 2, make sure that all of your channel notifications are active. 3, show up to our Tuesday YouTube Live where we're gonna talk about solving all of your issues around training. Now, the chaos of open skilled sports requires a large amount of strength in unilateral positions and in bilateral positions, but predominantly unilateral. Now, we've got to be able to express that strength through blast impulse and sustained impulse. That means putting out a large amount of force in a very short period of time. You need to be ready for those obtuse and acute angles that are going to lead to weird positions. We've got to be able to come out of these cuts. You need to be able to decelerate and accelerate as quickly as possible. And most importantly, even at that top end speed, we've got to be fast. So in open skilled sports, there's no clear pathway to achieving a touchdown or a shot or a goal, anything along those lines. Typically, we're gonna see someone or something, some type of obstacle in our pathway. Someone or something will be in our way out on the field. And this is a drill that I learned directly from Michael Drock Performance. Michael Drock's got unbelievable content out on Instagram, and this is one of those drills that I've learned from him that you can actually implement to improve that open skilled speed. And this is going to be a tennis ball, or in our case, a lacrosse ball drop. And all we have to do is set up cones in different manners. Now, if you have a coach or a partner, we want to start at a certain point with a cone. And then we want to have a place where we are going to conclude the drill. So that could be the theoretical end zone. That could be the theoretical defense person that we're going to try and get a catch over top of. But now we have an intent around speed, around obstacles. First try on camera, and I'm gonna throw the ball it's gonna drop close to the last cone. I'm gonna run around the cones. After it lands, I'm gonna try and catch it before it bounces again. So here we go. Boom! Oh! So now I can do that and go back. Now I haven't really gone back this way. Here we go. So you can set up the cones in any specific manner. If you're a D tackle, you want these cones to be a little bit tighter where you're scraping down the line. We can even get creative where we're gonna have more lateral movement. Think about a 5-10-5. You've got an athlete who sucks at the 5-10-5. You've got somebody who's a basketball player that's not very good laterally. A tennis player, they're really good forward, backward, they got a crazy serve, but they're not as good laterally. Something that you could do is you start here. You teach them with slow drills how to cross step, get here, come out, and if you have that ball going, now they have to make the play. So I'm gonna see if I can do this. Here, boom, boom, boom. It's a little bit easier when you got your coach or a training partner to do this, but this is an absolutely fantastic drill to try and increase your lateral speed as well as the speed around other obstacles. Do this for about 5 sets, maybe 2 times to each side. So you've all seen the garage strength contrast method where we do absolute strength movements with a reflexive movement. And I love to do that, especially if we have athletes come in and we can identify that they're open, skilled athletes. We've got to throw everything at them. We got to get them stronger. We got to get them bigger, but we also have to get them faster and more explosive. And we can do that by pairing the lacrosse ball drop or the tennis ball drop with a reflexive movement. When we talk about a reflexive movement, we want to emulate things that are challenging. I'm gonna show you the final outcome that we're gonna work towards, and then I'm gonna show you how you can chunk this and start to learn the progression to get to the point of executing it very, very well. The first thing that we're gonna do, pick up a single leg roller, available at garagestrength.com along with that single leg pad. Now, so we're gonna get here, we're gonna do a full single leg drop, a snatch, catch, boom, 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 boom. So there's a lot of change of direction. You're being explosive. You're getting back into that quarter squat position, and then you're gonna reset, go back down into that single leg aspect. Now, we've got to use chunking to get to this point. And chunking is a very key theory that we use in developing our app, Peak Strength. We use chunking to help with progressions of periodization, to help athletes make that progress throughout their training. One of the hardest parts around speed-based training is knowing how to get stronger, and then knowing when to have things like plyometrics on an athlete day, and then knowing how to pair that with speed-based training. So you can start just doing a single leg squat holding the dumbbell. Now, the next aspect would be, I wanna do a single leg squat, boom. Simple, without even holding anything. I'm gonna come down, drive up, catch. Do that slowly. Your body's gotta learn it, your brain's gotta learn it. Boom. It's a skill, it's a skill. The more we practice skills, the easier it becomes for your body to just get it done out on the field. This is the final part of the chunk. Come down, up, hit, back down. Boom. So if you notice, you pause back in that flexion point. It's gonna be similar to where you're cutting with the lacrosse drill. This is a complex movement pattern, but done with a minimal amount of equipment. So when you would download Peak Strength, you can actually inform the app, how much equipment do you have? How many days a week will you be training? What sports specifically are you gearing your actual training towards? These are all things that make periodization and make training for freaks very complicated, but fortunately with Peak Strength, we make it that easy for you to attain that peak strength. Remember, crazy cuts are the key behind chaos. And I'm gonna give you one of my all-time favorite movements that's gonna lead to absolute crazy speed development. Now, we've gotta learn these movements through chunks. So that might look like, here, I'm gonna be dropping, changing direction, and actually running the opposite way. I'm gonna jump here and come out of that with a sprint. So we can warm up both sides, drop, boom, boom. And we wanna think about coming out of those cuts. Here, when I land, boom, I want this to come back here. I don't want to cross myself up. So we can train our athletes, or if you're a self-motivated athlete, you're watching this video, you can use this cool positioning to learn how to get out of those cuts a little more effectively. But that's going to lead us into the reckless V jump. So in the reckless jump, we're going to drop off of a box. We're going to face away from our final destination, not the crappy movies from the 90s. but actually the drill. We're gonna drop off the box, we're gonna jump 90 degrees over a hurdle. Then we're gonna land and we're gonna jump another 90 degrees, and then we're gonna land and sprint out of that position. So this teaches us, one, bilateral landing, two, how to change direction and have that trunk control, and then three, land and get out as quickly as possible. So this is gonna be similar to what basketball players might be doing, coming down with a rebound, landing on 2 feet, and getting out of that as quickly as possible. So the reckless V-jumps are a drill that you can use to increase your speed, to improve your elasticity, and then ultimately become a freak in whatever sport you're playing. Have you ever heard of velocity decrement training? If we look at sprinting, let's say 10 meters, and we can get that done in 1 second with just our body weight, if we would add the tool, the velocity decrement would take us to 1.35 seconds. So we're adding 35%. So what researchers have looked at is if you train at 35% of a velocity decrement versus 55% of a velocity decrement, you will see a better acute response with that 35% decrement. And this can be done with a hill, but in most cases, in most research we've seen, it's done with a sled. And so we can use velocity decrement training as a means, one, to get an immediate response for speed improvements, and then two, to also help teach specific mechanics. Now, the other big aspect around this is that in the past, most people would do a lighter sled-based training. So if you don't have access to an iPhone or any type of tool that's really gonna be accurate as far as measuring your velocity decrement, just use this simple equation here. All you have to do is take about 8 to 10% of your body weight. I would put 10% of my body weight on the sled. If I weigh 220, I'd put about 20 to 25 pounds. That's the best way if you don't have access to crazy tools. Now, if you have access to a sled, I would recommend doing about 8 to 10 sets in different start positions. And then you could potentially, even if you do have an iPhone, record yourself without this after about 4 to 5 minutes rest and see what your speed response is. I like to use a sled here where you immediately have tension and we're actually in a kneeling start. So we're here and then just driving forward. That's a really good way to improve that start position and that acceleration. So I'm gonna demonstrate again here. Let me get a little bit of tension right here. I'm gonna set my knee with my start that I would have if I was running a 40, okay? I wanna think about my steep shin angles. I wanna come forward here and come out of that as rapidly as possible. Now, you wanna focus on those technical positions. You wanna focus on driving. You wanna focus on getting the shin angle in line with your torso, and that's gonna help you improve your overall speed. Use all of these methods to become faster. Make sure you understand the concepts around chaos coordination, unilateral explosiveness, and bilateral explosiveness. And if you guys want easy access to freak training, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store. You can download Peak Strength today for 5 free workouts. And if you're an athlete, you can choose from over 35 different sports to have a customized program specific to your needs and your specific sport. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace. We're going to give you the best training split to increase your speed, and we're going to start right now. What exercise other than single leg squat is going to train the absolute strength and the force production that's going to be relevant for running speed? We can use a safety squat bar to execute a single leg squat. Now, single leg squats are absolutely phenomenal for speed development. And so if we're going to do that single leg squat and we throw in some type of variation like the safety squat bar, we're going to use the garage strength contrast method. We're gonna do a type of reflexive exercise after we crush ourselves with the safety squat bar. So the first thing we're gonna do is target that absolute strength with the single leg squat with the safety squat bar. Okay, so we're gonna get here. 3 each side, okay? And we wanna really think about a little bit of that forward lean, which is why I love the safety squat bar. It's a little bit higher, it pulls you a little bit more forward. You're gonna feel that in your back. It's gonna help develop that dynamic trunk control. If you don't have access to a safety squat bar, it's okay to just use dumbbells or just use a standard barbell. This is where we're gonna hit 5 sets of 3 each leg or 5 sets of 5 each leg. We wanna develop that absolute strength. We wanna focus on recruiting as much as possible. The second thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna go to garagestrength.com and you're gonna pick up that single leg squat stand, roller and pad, so you can do these properly and really load these up. And then that third thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna do the garage strength contrast method. That means I'm trying to take a little bit of a breather, and we're gonna do that reflexive work. We wanna do things that are gonna transfer really well with speed. Things are gonna transfer really well to running. We wanna target that dynamic trunk control. I'm gonna come down, up, and when we catch in that dumbbell snatch position, we don't wanna be falling all over the place. If you have an athlete, or if you are the athlete doing this contrast method and you're falling over, you're missing those snatches, and you're saying, well, it's not the weight, it's my balance. If it's your balance, it's the weight. Decrease the weight. Okay, that's a really important concept. A lot of people, specifically 99% of the time, it's dudes. So we're gonna go both sides here, down, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so for the reflexive portion, we're gonna hit 5 sets of 3 on each side. For the absolute strength portion, we're gonna do 5 sets of 5 on each side. You're gonna rest about a minute from the absolute strength to the reflexive. You're gonna rest about 2 minutes from the reflexive, getting back into that absolute strength. And we're gonna use this to develop that running speed. This is typically gonna be done on that leg power day, and that's gonna play a major role in developing that proper training split. So when we're training speed, we've got to think through specific lenses. That provides a framework. So we need to look at 1, we have to improve our starting position. 2, we've got to improve our acceleration. 3, we've got to improve that transition, which then leads to max mechanics. And so if we can identify those 4 areas, now we need to use that lens to continuously develop our training. We can then identify what are those specific problem areas for athletes, and then improve them with different types of resistance-based training and different types of drills. And then that's gonna take us into the splits. If we look at split-specific training, 1, we want to work on certain aspects of starting strength and acceleration on leg power day. So that's gonna be day 1. Day 2, that's gonna be where we wanna focus on some type of plyometric work, some type of really elastic high speed movements. Then the 3rd specific day will be more resistance-based training. That's gonna be impulse work. That's producing as much force in a designated period of time. That split should be typically 3 days of resistance-based work that has a leg power day, an athlete day, an impulse day, and then we will also be doing speed-based training out on a field or out on a track on opposing days, or if we periodize properly, on the same day. So one of the big factors that we want to focus on as far as resistance-based training is concerned is we want to hammer force production. In running, there's a very, very high degree of peak forces. So we want to find movement patterns that also have extraordinarily high peak forces. And fortunately, we have technical coordination exercises. And we're gonna demonstrate 2 specific movements that you can use to increase your overall running speed. Now, these exercises will be done 1 on that leg power day, so day 1, and then on day 3, the impulse day, if we're only doing a 3-day split. And fortunately, we have an under 25 US national champ, Yvonne Eskett, to actually demonstrate the first exercise. So the first exercise is going to be executed on that leg power day. So if we have an individual who struggles, let's say, coming out of the blocks, or they struggle with that starting speed, they struggle with acceleration, typically we can alleviate those problems by focusing on more power. So this is going to be a low hang clean with a pause, and you can get pretty creative with this. So Yvonne's gonna demonstrate a low hang clean, and we're gonna pause below the knee. And what I'm gonna do, Yvonne, is I'm gonna tell you when we are in that pause, I'm gonna give you that auditory command. So we'll go up, hang, 1, 2, go. Good, get another one. So we'll pick this up, hang that, 1, go. Good. So that's the first exercise. Typically, we'll do cleans on that leg power day because we want to develop a little bit more strength and speed at that same time. This is, again, something that you would do for like 5 sets of 2, and we're gonna do this specifically with athletes who struggle coming out of the blocks. They're a little bit slower with that first step. Now, the second exercise, the second technical coordination exercise is going to be a power snatch. I like to do this on impulse day, and I like to use the intent of moving heavy weight as fast as possible. You need to do this with proper technique, with proper form. You need to execute this with a logical mind, but you need to think about ripping the bar and sending it through the ceiling. So Yvonne's gonna demonstrate a power snatch. And again, we can use an auditory command. I'll let him go for a double here without that auditory command. Good. Good, now we'll do one more. I'll get him in that start position. I'll hold him just like really bad officials in the track meet. Go. Good, good. So the main goal here is using technical coordination exercises to train peak forces and to train that starting strength. If we can hone in on power development, force development, attaining those peak forces, that's gonna help us run a bit faster. We're gonna do this on day 1, leg power day, day 3, if we're on a 3-day split, impulse day. So another great way to improve our running speed is to analyze again that training split. We're looking at leg power day, we're looking at the athlete day, then we're looking at impulse day. And then we can break that down further into other strength exercises. And if we can use other strength movements that lead through a long range of motion, think about lengthening is strengthening. And if we can load those weights a little bit heavier to a point, remember, someone like Noah Lyles, who's one of the fastest people on the planet, can power clean over 300 pounds. And he only weighs about 180 pounds, so think through that lens. He also has tremendous absolute strength. That helps him with his start, that helps him with his acceleration. And that's gonna take us from, if we're on that leg power day, that's gonna be where we use something like the safety squat bar, single leg squat. Now, if we're on impulse day, and we want to lengthen, and we want to focus on that trunk control, that's gonna take us into this next sweet absolute strength exercise, which is going to be the box squat. And I love to use a box squat for speed for various reasons. 1, we can load it up, and sprinters do tend to have a very strong posterior chain. 2, one thing that we can do is focus on a little bit more eccentric lowering, where we go a little bit slower. But then 3, we can use that auditory command. And then 4, we can even get into unique methods where we start to do things that are unbroken with the auditory command. So it might look like this, nice and controlled, okay? Lengthen, 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 1, 2, and now the coach can say, up. You react fast, out of the blocks. Control, 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 boom, up. Drive that chest up. We wanna project forward when we're coming out of the blocks. We wanna keep the chest up off the box. Now, this is what we would look for if we wanna see something a little bit more unbroken. It might look like this. Up, right back down. Up, right back down. Up, boom. So the big factor here is I would actually use this on that day 3 impulse day if we have a 3-day split for running speed. And just remember, lengthening is strengthening. So one of the big factors around speed-based training is that we have to be able to put out repetitive, high-speed actions. There's a massive value to doing important accessory movements, to training the hypertrophic aspect to generate larger myofibrils in specific muscles. And in this case, we always should be doing an exercise like Nordic hamstring curls. But we wanna set this up where we focus on developing 1, hip extension, and 2, that knee flexion and targeting our hamstrings specifically. And we're gonna pair this with a sweet exercise, and we're even gonna analyze a little bit of someone we talked about earlier, Noah Lyles, and issues that he's had in training. And in past videos, we've even discussed research that has shown that when you do Nordics, you are less likely to pull your biceps femoris. Your biceps femoris is your strongest hamstring muscle, and that's gonna be playing a major role in speed development. Okay, so we can focus on a nice controlled eccentric. I'll do a couple here with a little tap and come up. Ooh. Control, boom, back up. I'll do one more. Control, control, control. Back up. Now I'm gonna try and do this without my hands, okay? Oh, I can feel that already. Here. One more. Try and have a little bit more hip extension like this. I tend to stick that butt back. Now, one of the biggest aspects around athletic based training, speed-based training, is that we want to focus on cool movements like this. And the reason why they're cool is not because of what they look like, but because of what they can do to your overall training. And that's specific things that we do deep inside of our app, Peak Strength. Inside of Peak Strength, we use exercises like the Nordic curls. We use exercises like this. They heal unsupported split squat, where we want to actually focus on good hip mobility in an unsupported position. And if you remember, I mentioned Noah Lyles recently, his biomechanist, Ralph Mann, was talking about how he was having issues with his ankle dropping during the drive phase, during acceleration, coming out of the blocks. Now, one of the ways that you can target something like that, where there might be an issue with his ankle, is trying to improve ankle stiffness through that isometric position. So if we're doing things like the Nordics, and then we're pairing that with something like unsupported split squats, here we're targeting the quads, we're targeting even that posterior chain, and we're improving ankle stability. So you can hit each side and hold that position and figure out, does your specific athlete or individual struggle, it's hard to talk and balance here, with ankle stiffness on one ankle compared to the other? Okay, and that's exactly what we do inside of Peak Strength. We try to figure out what are your issues based off of your specific sport. We've developed great programming with intelligent design that on the back end then can lay out that program over a 16 to 20 week time frame based off of your peak date. So you can go in, you can select your specific sport, and then use movements like this to help enhance your overall sports performance. Now, we would use these hypertrophy exercises on that leg power day, and inside Peak Strength, we have that leg power day as day one. Typically in Peak Strength, day two would be an upper body power day. Day three would be that athlete day that we've talked about. And we're gonna get further into that in the future here. But impulse day would be where we would use these specific exercises. So we'll do a sliding Cossack squat. Here, boom, up fast. Here, boom, up fast. And we wanna train both sides, okay? Remember, lengthening is strengthening. And even if we can improve our hip stability, our hip mobility, we can get in better positions coming out of the blocks. We can hold posture a little bit better coming out of the blocks. And that's gonna help us project down the track or out of a cut if we're running a route, or if we're a linebacker, that's gonna help us get forward and have a steeper shin angle. Here, so on that leg power day, you might see split squats, 4 sets of 5 on each leg. You might see the Nordics, 4 sets of 7. On that impulse day, we might do 5 sets of 4 on each leg during the Cossack squats. One final exercise that you will see commonly on that impulse day would be a movement like this, okay? So we would pair the sliding Cossack squats with drop lunges. So it would be here, boom, 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 boom. One more, boom, boom. And we can do this even with dumbbells, depending upon the phase that we're in. Inside Peak Strength, we'll lay that out with exposure phase, comprehension phase, ascension phase, summit phase, peaking with realization phase. So we wanna focus on proper periodization and proper exercise selection. Now, we're gonna do that left side, boom, boom. 2 more, boom, boom. 1 more, boom, boom. So we wanna focus on impulse, drop, absorb, accelerate out of that as quickly as possible, produce as much force in as short of a time frame as possible. You can have easy access to this freak training by going to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, where you can download Peak Strength and get 7 free days of training. During those 7 free days, you're gonna get 5 free workouts. It's gonna help you develop your impulse and develop that overall power output so you can run faster. Now, athlete day, this is gonna be the day that we use the not so secret awesome sauce of plyometrics, okay? So if we look at plyometrics, we're gonna produce an absurd amount of force in a very short period of time, and we wanna train different aspects that lead to greater impulse when we're sprinting. Sprint speed really comes down to impulse. Every time that you ground, how much force can you produce in that short grounding period? Now, athlete day might look like this. I'm gonna give you an entire athlete day and we're gonna analyze the specific aspects around it that make it so awesome. We're gonna start with PVC pipe walks. We wanna focus on just walking forward, being on an unstable surface, waking our feet up a little bit, and trying to really improve your balance and your stability. You wanna focus on that 5 sets of 15 meters, and then as you get better, you can start to race your friends, you can start to race people that you're in a competition with, that you might be training with. It can get really fun, really creative, and it can improve your overall stability. Now, after you do those PVC pipe walks, a very easy plyometric that you can lead into is going to be a bilateral movement. And typically the way I like to set up our athlete day, and you can see this inside of Peak Strength, is that we want to do an easier bilateral movement with easier unilateral movements. Now, for today's video, the bilateral movement is going to be simple pogo jumps. Focus on minimal knee bend. You still need to bend your knees. A little bit of dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. That's going to look quick, and we're going to do about 5 sets of 9. For the video, we'll do 9 here. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that's a really, really good, simple bilateral exercise. That's gonna wake you up even further. It's gonna help with that twitchiness. Now, the next movement, you have never seen. You've never seen this anywhere because it doesn't exist anywhere on the internet except for when I've played around with this. And this is a lynch series jump. So essentially what we're gonna be doing is a curtsy squat to a side jump. It's hard, but do this slowly, wake it up, 5 sets of 3 to each leg. Remember, we're gonna pair this now with those pogo jumps. So we start with the PVC pipe, we go pogo jumps there. We're gonna pair this with the lynch series. This is gonna be that unilateral movement. So I'm gonna start here on the corner of this box. I'm gonna plant my foot here. I'm gonna bring this knee down, almost like a curtsy squat, and I'm gonna jump back, okay? So that's what it's gonna look like. Here, boom, boom. And then as you learn this, as you have that adaptive neural coordination, okay, you're gonna get a little bit quicker. So we're gonna go here, boom, boom. 5 sets of 3 each side. Do both of those, pogo jumps, the lynches, okay? You hit that. The next thing we wanna focus on is gonna be a little bit higher intensity, okay? Now is where we're gonna get into things that will really, really help improve your speed. So we're gonna do a bilateral bound, and we're gonna superset that with something unique you've all seen, but will drastically improve your speed. And remember, leg power day. That's where we're focusing on basically max acceleration, starting strength. The second day will typically be athlete day. Third day, impulse day, okay? So this is where we're gonna see a good transfer. We're gonna do double leg bounds here, boom, boom, boom. I just realized I'm still wearing my socks. So you can do 5 sets of 3 jumps. One thing that you can do to make it more complicated is that you can actually measure how far you go on set 1, set 2, set 3, set 4. That's one thing that I've realized now. We have a vertical jump pad. I love using it because the athletes will do hurdle hops or stair jumps, and then they can test themselves in between sets, and they take things a little bit more seriously and push themselves a little bit more. So we're gonna take those bilateral jumps, those bounds, now we're gonna superset them with single leg bounds over targets. So we've got these mini hurdles set up. Let's say you have 4 jumps. What you can do is you can be outside on a longer turf or on a field or on the track, and each set you can just lengthen that a little bit, and that's gonna help with that unilateral position, and that's gonna help keep the explosiveness of your right leg in a structural stable position relative to your left leg. So you'll have minimal energy leaks from that mechanical perspective of power output. So we can go left leg, boom, 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 boom. They're too tight for me because I'm explosive. So that's my left leg. Now I'm gonna go to my right leg here, boom, 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 boom. Okay, work through that, 5 triples on each leg. And then we're gonna finish off athlete day here. Usually I like athlete day to end with either a weightlifting movement like a technical coordination or a reflexive movement. So a reflexive movement in this case for speed would be a unique split squat variation. So we're here and you can go boom, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay, so we wanna go each leg. I'll demonstrate on my other side because if I don't do the other side, for the rest of my day today, I'll be paranoid that I'm weaker on one side compared to the other. So now we'll go here, we'll go 1, 2, 3, boom, boom. 1, and we want to hold that position. So we start off athlete day, PVC pipe walks. We get into those pogo jumps and the lynch series. Then we get into the bounds, the single leg bounds, and then we finish with that reflexive work. We take each day, leg power day, athlete day, impulse day. We combine that. You figure out what days you need to be doing your speed work out on the field or out on the track, wherever it is that you're at. Take all this information and apply it today to your overall training. Try some of these exercises. And remember, if you guys need help with your programming, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store. You can download Peak Strength today for 7 free days of access to freak-based training. Because remember, freaks, if you guys want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace. The secret to speed and force development lies within your legs. But what part? The glutes, the hamstrings, the quads? It lies within muscles you may have never heard of. The triceps surae. I'm gonna show you why science has proven that these muscles are the secret to increasing your speed. And we're even going to give you those specific exercises to make you faster. And we're gonna start right now. The soleus is one of the most underrated muscles of the triceps surae. It's one of the main muscles that makes up that triceps surae, AKA the calf muscles, along with the gastroc. So the soleus is the broad, flatter muscle that's going to be right underneath the gastroc. So if we look at our skin, right, the gastroc's gonna be the bigger, more protruding calf muscle, whereas the soleus is gonna be underneath, and you're even gonna see it over here to the side. It's gonna come up here, and that's gonna be where the soleus lies. Now, when we're looking at the soleus and what it actually does, it's really, really responsible for plantar flexion in a bent knee position. This is extremely important, especially when we're talking about athletes. Athletes have to accelerate, okay, at very, very high speeds. They have to run at very, very high speeds, and typically that's going to be done in a bent knee position, and that's where the soleus is going to come into play. And according to this research paper, the soleus muscle is most responsible for the greatest amount of center of mass acceleration. So when we're training the soleus, one of the big things that we want to look at is holding that bent knee position. And contrary to popular belief, when we're running at high speeds, even when we're running at our fastest speed, we will still be grounding in a semi-bent position. We don't ground here. We ground in a very, very semi-bent position. So that's where the soleus comes into play for running 100 at the 40, 50, 60 meter mark. So now one way to train that could be we get into this position here, right? And we've got that back foot on our single leg roller, and we could use a slant board, we could use a plate, we could use anything that you want, a freaking brick, as long as it's stable. And what we want to do here is lower that heel, back up, lower that heel, back up. Lower that heel, back up. And you can do that for, let's say, 4 or 5 sets of 7 on each side to start to wake up that soleus and get it to prime and start to actually fire at higher speeds. Now, one movement that you can use to increase speed that's very unique and has a little bit of a hip hinge into that hip lock is going to be this position here, toe off. So what we can focus on is holding this hip flexion, holding this knee flexion, coming through, boom, here, boom. Now, you can use this with a contrast method where you're gonna be doing another plyometric exercise with this exercise. You can use this just to teach actual propulsion forward. And one more advanced variation of this could be a little bit higher on that projection point so you don't actually drop down, but you're here and you hold just slightly plantar flex. That heel is not down. I'm gonna come forward here, come through, boom. That might be a little high here. And you're gonna feel that in the quad, in the glutes. One thing too is even trying to extend more from the glute here and the hamstring, and you will feel that through the soleus all the way down into your Achilles. You can do 5 triples on each side, but hold that isometric against the wall or even on that box to feel what your action is from the soleus, because we want to make sure that we're contracting at very high speeds. Now, to really wake up the soleus, okay, so we did show you that single leg position and doing that plantar flexion there, but one thing that we can do now is that if we really want to loosen up, let's start off with our classic PVC pipe walks. This is gonna help with the mobility of your foot and also help with the action around the calf, specifically the soleus, which we're talking about here. So we can do this, let's say 3 to 5 sets of 15 meters, okay? Then we can get into something like a split squat position. We can go into a split squat position here and try and hold this heel plantar flex. And because our soleus on this side, on both sides, links into our Achilles, if we hold that position, you're gonna start to feel it quite a bit in that soleus, and you're also gonna feel that in that back leg. Now, we're gonna use the classic garage strength 5S protocol with a very advanced jump, okay? So this is gonna be something that most kids can do, but if you work through the 5S protocol, because it is done at very, very high speeds, we build into this. First thing that we can do is just go nice and slow, and we don't wanna have this heel drop here, okay? When I land, I'm gonna be doing a pogo jump. I wanna land almost flat-footed, but just to the point where I can have like a credit card underneath that heel. Okay, so we'll go here, boom, slow, boom. I'm flexed, slightly flexed. Here, come back up. Try to think about Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. Boom, 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 okay? But slow, very, very slow. Now the next one, we'll get into a little bit of a stop. Here, boom, 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 boom. And if you notice, I actually tried to recalibrate my arm swing. A lot of kids tend to jump like this here, or they jump like this. This is a really easy way to teach them how to activate the soleus, but also use their arms. Stutter one. This is gonna be a little bit more challenging, okay? So we're here, boom, 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 okay? So that stutter is there's a little bit less, there's that double bounce, boom, double bounce, boom, double bounce, boom, okay? So it's gonna be a little bit more of a stretch shortening cycle through the soleus. That's gonna really wake it up. Now, I can get set here and I'm gonna go faster. I'm here, but that's gonna be the 5S method that you use for pogo jumps to get that soleus firing. So with all that scientific support, it's gotta be a no-brainer. The soleus is definitely that muscle that we've gotta keep targeting. But is it? But what about the gastroc? Besides being bigger, more out in the open, probably a little bit broader to a point, what does the gastroc do to help you be fast? The gastroc originates as two heads directly behind your knee. The medial head, or the inside, arises from the back, or the fancy science term is going to be arising from the medial condyle. And that's gonna be of your femur or your thigh bone. Whereas the lateral head, or the outside head of the gastroc, is gonna come from the lateral condyle of your femur bone, or again, your thigh bone. And so the gastroc is going to come down, okay? So when we're looking at the gastroc, okay, so we're gonna have the lateral side here, the medial side here, okay, the gastroc's gonna sweep down, it's gonna join in with the soleus muscle. The soleus muscle is gonna be underneath. You can sort of see that here. Wish I was a little bit more defined in my calves right now. And this is scientifically going to be known as the posterior aspect of the calcaneus. So the gastroc is that superficial muscle. It's easy to see, just like when you're flexing in the muscle, training those biceps. It's going to be responsible for plantar flexion as we come up here. And if we can be in a slight knee bend, that's gonna help quite a bit light up those gastrocs. The gastrocs, I believe, respond very well to heavier loads, and they respond very well at slower tempos. They are more of that power muscle. I like to think of this muscle more so along the lines of what you would see out of big, huge offensive linemen, big, huge shot putters as well. That's typically where you're gonna see those swole calves. Now, if I do something like a standing calf raise right here, okay, we could do this for, let's say 4 or 5 sets of 17, do a nice slow eccentric, and you're gonna get a crazy pump, especially on that medial aspect of the gastroc. And it does bode to add that from a functional perspective, the gastrocs will fire very well in coordination with the quads and the glutes. So the standing calf raises are absolutely fantastic when we're looking at increasing the size of the gastroc. And actually, there's even been a recent paper that has shown that training your calves in a standing position will elicit greater growth. Now, if I'm doing just something here, just to loosen up the Achilles, loosen up the calves, okay, here, one movement I can do that's very interesting and very challenging. I'm gonna put my feet on this plate. I got my safety squat bar here, and I have this position here. I can get set, boom, 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 boom. And we're doing a Hatfield safety squat bar calf raise. And we can just load the hell out of this. Let's say we do 5 sets of 7, 5 sets of 9, something like that. Get super, super heavy, which is gonna load them very, very well. Now, if you wanna build into that, one thing that you can do is take some of this weight off, okay? And let's just say we make it a little bit easier. I'm gonna take off one more. Make sure that you really warm up the Achilles, really warm up everything. And we get into this position and we don't use that Hatfield, okay? So wow, that's way lighter. I get set here, come up, boom. And even when I'm standing right here, I'm slightly bent, okay? Now, when we ground at high speeds, you're a little bit more bent, but this is going to help strengthen that. And a lot of people too, even if they have issues, let's say they've rolled their ankle or they've sprained their ankle, something along those lines. Start with a movement like this, okay? And you can have these posts here for guidance if you need it. That's gonna help with some muscular rehab, some joint rehab, but it's also gonna help strengthen that entire ankle joint. So a really unique gastroc exercise that we learned from Ferris Khan, AKA Brother Ferris, is going to be done with a sled. And I actually like having this sled with a little bit shorter tether here when we're doing this exercise. So talked about how the gastroc is going to be much more of like that power move, okay, that power muscle, not the super, super high speed muscle, but the power muscle. We can get into this position and we're gonna have a little bit more weight on the actual sled than we would in relation to if we're doing sled sprints. Okay, so I can get a little bit forward lean here and I'm just going boom, 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 boom. Have that force being put into the ground so that you get that back, you get that reaction force back from the ground. Now, I would do this for, let's say, 5 to 6 sets of 15 meters, something along those lines. Now, with the exercises and the physiology and the anatomy covered, which muscle is scientifically proven to make you faster? And let's face it, not one single muscle is going to be used to make you faster. You've clearly got to coordinate at high speeds across your entire body. And that's exactly why we have over 700 different exercises inside of our strength training app, Peak Strength. You guys can head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength today. You're going to get a free week of training so that you can actually build up every single muscle that's going to make you a freak and operate at faster speeds. And that muscle is video editor. Drum roll, please. The Soleus. So according to Bohm et al. In their recent paper in experimental biology, they discuss what it means to have a soleus that contracts at very, very high speeds. The article states, the increase in maximum power was explained by an enhancement of muscle activation in contractile conditions until 7 meters per second, but mainly by increased muscle activation at high to maximal running speed. In essence, if we look at this on the opposing spectrum, the slower our soleus contracts, the slower we will run. But let's face it, every single leg muscle needs to be trained when we're discussing speed. It's just soleus might be the most important, especially at high speeds. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace. Can weight room numbers predict your speed? We're gonna find out, and we're gonna start right. Let's get into the 60-second breakdown. So to run faster, we need to be extremely explosive right off the start. We have to have good overcoming strength. Okay, so be explosive right at the start. The second key factor to being fast, to running very quickly, is that we have to have a strong drive phase. We have to be able to accelerate very, very rapidly, and we have to have a steep shin angle to do so, which is gonna lead us to light up our Achilles. It's gonna lead us to light up our quads and our glutes, so we've gotta be strong in those areas. Then we have to have a very strong transition. So as we're transitioning out of acceleration and we're getting into top speed, We have to have good dynamic trunk control. Okay, we have to be stable through our hip girdle. We have to have elastic joints, okay? And then long term, when we're training at max velocity, we also have to recognize that we have to have good movement, good mechanics, good technique. All these things come back to specific movements that now we can build on and identify in the weight room to train each specific area of being fast. So we gave you the mechanics that you need around sprinting. Now we're gonna go into the specific strength, movements, and numbers. Okay, so that first exercise is going to be a power snatch. Boom! Now, we talked about really explosive overcoming strength, so being able to have a very rapid start. And also we even mentioned about accelerating, okay? One of the key aspects around speed-based work is accelerating as quickly as possible, so having that good overcoming strength. That's where power snatch comes into play. If we have a 180-pound male or a 130-pound female, those numbers that we're gonna look for are gonna be 1.1 times body weight for the male. That's gonna be about 198 pounds. If we have a female that weighs about 130 pounds, we're gonna look for 0.9 times body weight, okay? That's gonna put us around 115 to 117. One of the key aspects behind the power snatch is it's gonna give you that really explosive first step. It's also gonna help you decelerate as well. Now, the key factor here too to remember is that these are numbers to work towards. These are numbers to build to. Okay, there's going to be some anomalies that have numbers that are higher than this, and they still might be a little bit slow. And there's going to be some on the other side that don't have these numbers, and they're still fast. But in all reality, we need to work towards these numbers to build that speed. Now, the next lift that we want to focus on, we want to find something that's going to help us with that overcoming strength, again, to have a very powerful start. Working on an explosive start leads us into the ability to also stop and restart if we're in a field sport or a court sport, okay? So we need to look at what the sprinters are doing, okay? What's Mujinga Kambunji doing, okay? What's Noah Lyles doing? What are these freak athletes doing in their training that helps them improve that start position so they can accelerate as quickly as possible? And that takes us into the power clean. Okay, so if we have that 180-pound male, we want him to be able to clean about 1.5 times body weight. And what that means is that if we have a 180-pound male, okay, if they can clean 1.5 times body weight, that's gonna put us around 270 pounds. Now we know that they can accelerate and implement the barbell very, very rapidly. We also know that when they catch that, they're gonna have that dynamic trunk control, so they're gonna be very, very sturdy in the catch. If we have a 130-pound female, we want that individual to clean at their best about 1.25 times body weight. Now, if you have someone like Aaron Gadsden, who's one of the best jump coaches in the world and has some of the fastest jumpers in the world, a lot of his women jumpers are gonna clean 185, 190 pounds for reps. But 1.25 times body weight for a female sprinter will put us around 165 pounds, okay? That's pretty reasonable. If we have athletes that can hit these numbers, 1.5, 1.25, and they can build up to that, and they have that explosive position, and they have good technique, and they have good sprint mechanics, along with that twitchy athletic muscle, now we can keep building to better speed. Okay, so that next exercise is gonna help us again with that start, but it's also gonna help us a lot during the drive phase, during max acceleration. And we're gonna do this on our sweet ZKC plates and ZKC scoop stands with our Tokyo 2020 barbell, okay? That exercise is gonna be a back squat. So we wanna execute this, okay, where we get nice and controlled. And I wanna see for men about 1.7 times body weight for 5 reps. For women, I wanna see that at 1.4 times body weight for 5 reps. And so for a dude, he's gonna be back squatting 5 reps at about 305 pounds with pretty good speed. Okay, for a woman that weighs about 130 pounds, that's gonna look at about 185 pounds. Now, sprinters love to squat like this. I do think it can be beneficial during their peaking to have quarter squats. I still think sprinters should be working on a little bit more full range of motion because of the transfer that we see on the dynamic trunk control. So I do think they can have better speed with better depth. And that's gonna help them coming out of the blocks. Okay, so the next exercise, okay, remember, overcoming strength, elasticity. We need to be as elastic as possible. Elastic like a kangaroo, total beast. Okay, one of the things that when I was in Tokyo at the Olympics in 2021, when we would go into the gym, you could see what all the best athletes were doing, okay? You could see what the best sprinters were doing. You could see the Jamaican team with Elaine Thompson-Hera, with Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, with Sharika Jackson, okay? All these total freaks, okay? We're doing various squats, right? And they might do a front squat to a box. But I do believe front squats could be done with full range of motion here. Okay? I think that the front squat is absolutely phenomenal for developing speed. It's also phenomenal for improving the mobility and stability in your ankles, okay? And having that upright trunk, having that sweet dynamic trunk control. If we're a dude, we weigh 180 pounds, okay? I wanna see about 1.5 times body weight for 3 good, strong, unbroken reps. So that's gonna put us around 270 pounds for that 180 pound dude. For a chick that weighs 130 pounds, we're gonna look at 1.25 times body weight. Again, 3 reps, rapid, good, strong reps that are elastic and quick moving, okay? We don't wanna be super, super grindy. Now, remember, back squat, front squat. These are numbers that we can build to. Yes, some sprinters will squat way more than that. Some sprinters will squat a little bit less. Someone like Elaine, she's got longer legs. She's not as strong with a squat as someone like Shelly Ann Fraser-Price. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There are different body types, and we've just got to be aware of that some of those sprinters that are a little bit shorter will have a better squat. But if you're training for a field sport or you're training for court sport, okay, if you're training for athletics in general and you need to be fast, these are great numbers to work towards and execute at high speeds. Okay, the next exercise is not going to be a standard movement that you see in most sprinter groups, that you see with most athletic coaches, okay? Most sports performance coaches are still barely using this movement, even though I believe it's probably the absolute best strength movement, absolute strength movement that you can use to increase your speed. And that's going to be single leg squats that you're gonna execute on the garage strength single leg squat stand and the garage strength balance pad. We use this to develop speed in all of our athletes, okay? We even use this movement with our weightlifters to help improve their overall structural balance, okay? That's the cool part around the single leg squat, is that it's gonna enhance dynamic trunk control, it's gonna light up the glutes, and if you move that front foot a little closer, if you have somebody who sucks during the drive phase with acceleration, you can target their quads. If they're very good during the drive phase, but they've got weaker hamstrings, lengthen that front leg, and now you can target the glutes and the hamstrings a little bit more. Okay, the glutes are always gonna be sore after they do this, so we've just gotta be aware of that. Now, when a dude is executing a single leg squat, and I'll demonstrate quickly here, is that we wanna get set up, okay? We're gonna have that front foot here, put that back leg up, and we want 1, 2, 3. Okay, then left leg. We don't want any hiccups, no crazy hiccups. A lot of athletes will say, oh, well, you know, I want to do more weight, or it's not the weight, it's my balance. Balance plays a role in your speed, okay? If you can recruit well, you're not gonna be falling all over the place. Now we're here. Now those numbers that we need to build towards after we pick up that garage strength single leg stand at garagestrength.com is going to be 1.4 times body weight for dudes. That's gonna put us around 250 to 255 pounds. 3 reps each leg. For women, we're gonna be looking at about 1.2 times body weight. That's gonna put us around 155 to 160 for women, okay? 3 reps each leg. I do think some of these numbers for women are a little bit too low, but most of the women's population still, sadly, is untrained. Here at Garage Strength, we've got a ton of freak athlete females, so these numbers are a little bit on the low side, about 83 to 85% of what the dudes are doing. But I think as we get better at coaching women, those numbers are gonna get closer to about 90%. So keep that stuff in mind. 1.4, 1.2, 3 reps each leg, good control. Next exercise. Now, this is a movement that I think one plays a massive role in protecting athletes as far as injury prevention is concerned. There is also, in my opinion, a large amount of anecdotal evidence is what I'm gonna call it, that every single fast athlete that we've ever coached, all the Power 5 football guys, okay, all the savage soccer players, lacrosse players, everybody that is fast, that we know are quick, okay, they've always been very, very good at the Nordic hamstring curl, okay? Now, this could be, you know, a discussion of is it correlation or causation, but regardless, I think every single athlete, if you want to be fast, you better get good at this specific movement, okay? So we wanna see the athlete come down hit and try to have minimal hip flexion when they come up, okay? I'll try and demonstrate this as well as I possibly can. I'm not fully warmed up, so bear with me. I'm also fat, old, and 38, and balding, and not as not as athletic as I used to be. I'm still fast though, don't worry. Mom's still proud. Okay, so we wanna go down, nice and controlled, boom. Okay, now, one of the other big factors is that if we can hold this, I'm gonna try this one. If we can hold at that flat level and come up quick, we're gonna be really, really explosive. Oh, that's too much hip flexion, okay? We wanna see minimal hip flexion. Now, the numbers that we're gonna look at, 5 reps for women that weigh 130 pounds, 7 reps for dudes, done without a band, without assistance. So build towards this, but use this movement to improve your hamstring strength and that elasticity of your hamstring. So you can even do really, really cool contrast training with the Nordic curls. You can do this with different plyometrics, sprint drills, whatever you want, isometrics, and that's gonna take us into the next really, really cool exercise that you need to use to build upon that speed. Okay, now, you heard me discuss elasticity, and you've heard me discuss moving like a kangaroo, a twitchy kangaroo. I think that they have the best image for me. I don't know why, maybe because they're just so freaking jacked and they just sort of, they're springboards, right? They're just bouncing along, super, super twitchy, right? That's what we need to build towards when we're trying to train in the weight room to improve our speed. Now this movement, no one does, okay? Nobody. When we're training, when we do our training, we're working that technical coordination exercises. We're doing power snatches, we're doing cleans. We wanna focus on dynamic trunk control. We wanna focus on improving our speed off the floor because that can help us with that first 1, 2, 3 steps, okay? Then we're doing the back squats, the front squats, the single leg squats. Those are all gonna help us with the drive phase, with acceleration, and if we're an athlete who's not a sprinter, we need to have the ability to decelerate very, very rapidly. Take someone like Nick Singleton, okay? We developed him using single leg squats, using front squats, using back squats, so that he was able to slam on the brakes and become one of the most dominant running backs in the NCAA. Okay, now this last exercise is going to focus on developing elasticity in the ankle joint, okay, and training you to switch very well with those hips while maintaining that elastic joint in the ankle. So these are going to be plantar flexion switch lunges. Now, I want to hold my ankle stiff here, okay, and I have the target forward. I want to be here, come forward without dropping that back ankle. Come back. Okay, keep that ankle there. Boom, 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 okay? And we wanna be able to do both sides. If we have a 180-pound dude, I want him holding 25-pound dumbbells without that ankle when I switch, okay? If I hit the switch here, come forward, without that ankle dropping, okay? Without that coming down. Both sides, ankle needs to stay up as we come forward, okay? We don't want to see this plop. If it plops, it lacks that elasticity, okay? We need to think about that springboard, right? And if that's plopping, that's not going to have that tension, okay? So I want to see a 25-pound dumbbell in each hand of a 180-pound dude. Chicks, 15-pound dumbbells, 6 reps on each side for both males and females. It's not overly complicated, but it will take about 2 to 3 months to really develop that feeling of that switch position, okay? I think these are very, very good exercises that pair well with the Nordic hamstrings and lead to overall development, especially during the acceleration period. So if you can execute this very, very well, you're gonna see a drastic improvement in your overall speed. So what's this mean? Okay, this is a great starting point. We know what these numbers are. You know where the numbers are in the weight room. Okay, so use that as a guide. Yes, there will be anomalies. Please infiltrate the comment section with all of the people who are stronger or weaker that are still fast. I understand it, but these are very, 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 very good guidelines for you to build towards. Okay, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing isometric actions. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing plyometric work. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing sprints, okay? There's various things that you still need to focus on, but this is a very, very good starting point when we're talking specifically about strength-based numbers. As I spit all over the camera because I'm so excited about strength based numbers for speed. So how can we apply this to our overall training? Okay, the first thing that I think we can do, the easiest thing, the lowest hanging fruit, is to build the clean first, okay? Build your clean up, okay? Sorry, there was like a little pun there. But if we can improve our clean, we're gonna see that transfer really, really well to the rest of our movement patterns. So use the front squats and the back squats to build that clean even further, okay? So now you can use something like the clean, improve your strength, improve your power output, and then you can base that success of the clean off of increasing your strength from squatting more or front squatting more. And that's a real key aspect that we've got to think about. And on top of that, I would even use power snatches. You know, we mentioned power snatches as the first key lift. If we use power snatches to prime your nervous system before you actually get into the clean part of your workout. So you can do 4 sets of power snatches, and then after you fix that neural drive and you really start to feel wired up, now you can get into those cleans. And a lot of people will comment, how are you training back squats when you also have single leg squats listed as a really important exercise? And I think it's important to note that you can do a back squat on one day, okay, and maybe you push a little bit more weight. And then on day 3 or day 4, you can push single legs with that unbroken tempo, moving as quickly as possible. And then with Nordic hamstring pulls, okay, you can do that 2 to 3 days a week. Maybe one day you just use it as a nice, easy warm up. You do it assisted. You just feel the hamstrings really trying to extend your hips. And then you can pick 2 other days throughout the week that you use it as a hypertrophy movement or as an accessory to keep strengthening that hamstring. Now finally, if we're talking about the ankle switches, okay, you've seen in all of our videos how we love to use PVC pipe walks. One real easy thing that you can do is you can do PVC pipe walks, okay, for 15 meters, and you can, play with the balloon while you're doing that, and then you can do ankle switches contrasting with those PVC pipe walks. You can do that pretty much every day or every other day in training, and that ankle joint will be extraordinarily stable while maintaining that elasticity. If you want to keep increasing your speed, make sure that you check out this video. And if you guys need help with your overall programming, make sure you pick up our app, Peak Strength. You can head to peakstrength.app, the Apple iOS store, or the Google Play Store, where you can get 7 free days of training to help build towards those specific numbers to help you become a freak. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.